Well, hello, my name is Jim Royal. I'm a huge Beatles and Elvis Presley fan and basically classic rock in general. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Also do a thumbs up at the end. That's always most appreciated. Feel free to leave comments. I always enjoy reading them and I do my best to respond to them in a timely manner. Today I'm going to be reviewing a classic solo Beatle album. This one comes from Paul McCartney. It is called All the Best. It was originally released back in November of 1987. There are different versions of it, but in the States here it was released on Capitol Records, and there is a UK-Canada version which was released on Parlophone EMI. The material on here goes from 1970 through 1984, but if you do buy the UK version you do get a new song which was recorded earlier that year in '87. Now this is Paul's second greatest hits collection. His first one was Wings Greatest. And what I like about this is I wanted to do this because sometimes people might ask, where do I start with Paul McCartney solo? Do I buy Band on the Run? What do I buy? Do I buy Chaos and Creation? I think this is probably a really good place to start. And it does a great job going through the 70s and through half of the 80s. Now, I wanted to share with you really quickly a story I had with this album. I remember buying the CD. It was one of the first CDs that I had bought. They were relatively new at the time, been out for a few years. And I remember I still have a memory being at the record store and holding this up and looking at it. Now in those days they had long boxes, cardboard boxes that would have the same artwork on it, and it would be basically so people couldn't just stick the CD in their pocket, they would have a harder time. So it was a security measure. I remember looking at it just thinking, wow, this is so cool. There were some songs on here that I never had, and I was just really excited by it. So I still have that memory. It was just a nice one. Huge Paul McCartney fan. So let me tell you, there are 17 songs on most formats of this. Okay, on the records, the tapes, and the CD for the US, there's 17 songs. However, there are 17 songs for the CD for the UK, though on the UK version for the vinyl, you have 20 songs. Now, this is a really nice double record, and the US version is also a double record. Let me show it to you real quick. What I love about this is that this is the UK version, is you get different, for each little song, I don't know if you can see that clearly, but each little song has a little picture for it, which is pretty neat. And then here's the back. And I love the gatefold on this. Look at that. That is just so cool. I love those pictures in there. Okay. And you also have a nice lyric sheet. The inner sleeve has lyrics on it. And then let me show you the record itself. Okay. All right. Well, if we're gonna, let's talk briefly about Wings Greatest and how it differs. Now, Wings Greatest was an album that came out, it was his first best of, this being his second. There were 12 songs on Wings Greatest. Of those 12 songs, 10 of them are on the US version, 8 of them are on the UK version of the CD, and 9 of them are on the UK vinyl. Alright? It's a little confusing, I understand. There are also differences between the UK and the US. Not just the song sequences, because they are all over the place, both of them, they're just different, but also when Paul would release a single, sometimes it would perform better in one territory than another. So if that was the case, he had a big hit here and he didn't have one somewhere else, so it might not be on the best of. Another reason would be is sometimes he would release singles in one territory only and decide not to release it somewhere else. So he had a hit there. So I'm going to basically go off the US version. That's what I'm most familiar with. Of the 12 songs that were from Wings' Greatest, 10 of them are on the US. You're missing Hi Hi Hi, and you're missing Mole of Kinta, Mole of Kinta was not a big hit here. What I don't like about the UK version, and I'll tell you that right now, is the CD does not have With a Little Luck on it, which is one of my favorite songs from him. It doesn't have Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey on either LP or CD versions for the UK, which is just astonishing to me because that is such a massive song, in my opinion. Good Night Tonight is also not on the UK version until you buy the vinyl. Now, I will say one plus about the vinyl for the UK is you do get Paul McCartney's Maybe I'm Amazed, which started it all off, but you don't get that anywhere else. So I'm going to read to you, I'm going to tell you about the songs from Wings' Greatest that are also on here and why you should go with this, and then I'll tell you about the new material too. Alright, so it starts off with Band on the Run and Jet. Both are from Band on the Run. Then you have, and I'm going in different order here, I'm just going down for the stuff that's already released. The next thing that's already on Wings' Greatest is Silly Love Songs and Let 'Em In. They're from Wings at the Speed of Sound. Then you have Live and Let Die, which was from the James Bond movie from 1973. Then you have Another Day, his first single with him and Linda in 1971. You have Junior's Farm, a standalone single in 1974. You have Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey from Ram in 71. And then you have With a Little Luck from London Town in 78. And then in 73 you have My Love from Red Rose Speedway. So that's what you had before on Wings' Greatest. And then here I'm going to tell you some of the new stuff that's on this. And what I like about this is the fact that not only does it have the old material, but it also continues up through the mid-80s, which I think, is sometimes an overlooked period these days. So here's what you get of some of the newer material that's not on Wings' Greatest. You get Listen to What the Man Said, which was a #1 hit from Wings off of Venus and Mars in 1975. That curiously was missing from Wings' Greatest. And you get the song Sea Moon, which was a double A side with Hi Hi Hi. And the story behind that, I guess, the Wings members decided to switch their primary instruments that they normally play, and you can tell they're just having a ball. I mean, you hear Paul, saying he skipped the intro of the song, and they're just laughing, and they just keep it going anyway. It's definitely a good time, and this one is a rarer song to find, so I was really excited when I saw that it was on here. Let's see what else you got there. Okay, so then I'm going to start talking about the stuff that came out after Wings' Greatest, and that would be Back to the Egg, that album. There are no songs, none of the singles from that are on here. So you're missing Getting Closer, you're missing Arrow Through Me, you're missing Old Siam Sir. What you are getting is a standalone single from those sessions called Good Night Tonight, which is just phenomenal. I love that song. It's a nice dance, upbeat tempo. Some people say it's sort of disco-y. That was the times. It reminds me a little bit with Little Luck, which is just a lot of fun. The other thing I wanted to say too is With a Little Luck, which is one of my favorite songs from Wings, is not even on the CD of the UK version. Now you do get it with Good Night Tonight on here, but those versions are lacking, those songs are lacking on the UK CD. Okay, so you have Good Night Tonight, which is a nice song that was on here. And then in 1980, McCartney 2 came out, and you have Coming Up, which is on here. Now this is interesting. Here in the States, what he had is he had a single. He had the studio version of Coming Up from McCartney 2 on one side, and then he had Paul and Wings live at Glasgow in 1979 doing Coming Up live. And then he had a song called Lunchbox Odd Socks, a couple songs on there. Well, the DJs here in America flipped it over and they were playing the live version. And I still remember being a boy at the pool, hearing that live version, thinking how cool that was. But that was the hit here. And that's the version that's on the US version. Now, if you buy the UK version, you're going to get the studio version. Now, I like both of them. I think they're both good. All right, in 1982, he released, but Waterfalls is a song that is missing from McCartney. It was a minor hit. In 1982, he had Tug of War, and off that album, Ebony and Ivory, which was such a big hit from them, him and Stevie Wonder did a nice duet on that. Really like that song. I think it's a little overlooked now, and I think the message is still something that should be said today. You know, if you listen to it, learn to love one another. I can't remember the rest of it, but, you know, Together, Alive, Ebony and Ivory. It's just if we learn to live with one another together, alive, Ebony and Ivory. I've always liked it. It's just a fun song. Check that one out. Tug of War is another song, and I don't think Tug of War is on the LP. I was trying to look at that ahead of time. That was actually a single, and Tug of War is mysteriously not on here, and I know that was a hit, so I'm surprised it's not even on the vinyl of the UK. And then, of course, Take It Away, which is nowhere. I mean, here you have a top 10, top 5 hit, and it's on nothing. I don't know. Now, I wanted to stop real quick. I'm being a little critical in some sense, but at the same time, this is called All the Best. It's not called All the Hits, or all my best songs, or you know, all my favorite songs. It's called All the Best. It's kind of like it's the top of the top. Okay, so I understand that. So I can't be completely critical. Also, a CD, especially in those days, was only good. Most that it could have is 70 to 75 minutes. I think today you can do 80 minutes. So it was also limited. So that is nice that he does have a double record, which he could have had more, but he was playing it safe here in the States. And if it wasn't a big hit, he's not going to put it on All the Best. All right, in 1983, he had Pipes of Peace come out, and off that he had Say, 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 a nice duet with Michael Jackson. Still makes me feel good every time I hear it. I don't hear it too much, but it's just a nice pick-me-up song. I love it a lot. I really enjoy that one. Also from that album, Pipes of Peace, the title cut. It was not a hit here in the States, though I remember it on MTV all the time. But it was popular in Britain. I think it was a #1 song there, and that's why it's also on the UK version and not the US version. What we did here is they had the A-side So Bad here in the States, and Pipes of Peace is the B-side. Now, So Bad was a top 20 hit. I think it was top 25. Minor hit, but it's not on here. Then in 1984, he had Give My Regards to Broad Street, and that soundtrack had the big hit No More Lonely Nights, which featured David Gilmour on lead guitar from Pink Floyd. Wonderful song, one of my favorite songs from the 80s of Paul. I just absolutely love it a lot. What he did release that year is he had a standalone single called We All Stand Together, and that was at the time when Give My Regards to Broad Street came out. He had a little short, Rupert and the Frog chorus, I think is what it was. It was a little 13-minute film, and there was a song that was their original music. That song, We All Stand Together, was a novelty hit in the UK. It was never released here, and I remember watching MTV at that time, and you know, them talking on MTV News about how, you know, this was a big hit here in the United Kingdom, and I'm like, wow, I wonder how that is. That sounds kind of cool. It was a fun children's song, and it is on, you know, the UK version, which is great. Now, there are some things that, you know, are not on here that I think should be. Some other songs. In 1985, he had the song Spies Like Us, which was a top 10 hit. I think it was #5 here, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong. But either way, it was #7. Either way, top 10 hit. It was not on anything, and it was the soundtrack title to the song of the movie from Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. And it's just a fun tune. It's kind of hard to get that one. I think you can get that on possibly Pure McCartney, I don't know, but it is a harder one of of Paul's to get. But that's nowhere. In 1986, you know, he had the commercial flop Press to Play. Off of there was the song Press, which was a top 25 hit. It's nowhere. You also have No Only Love Remains, nothing from that. Well, in 1987, which was the year this came out, he does have one new song on here called Once a Long Ago. And that's only on the UK version. And that was a top 10 hit for Paul in the UK. I think it was number 10. How that came about, it was produced by Phil Ramone, who actually was a producer for many of Billy Joel's classic albums. From what I read, I guess Paul did a whole album with him that it remains unreleased, and this is one of the songs. There was another song called Return to Pepperland also, which I've heard. The story about this, though, that came out later was apparently Rob Reiner, who is famous for movies such as When Harry Met Sally, I believe Stand By Me, and This Is Spinal Tap. He was making a movie, Princess Bride, and he wanted to get some original soundtrack music. So he talked to Paul about it. Can you write me a few songs? Well, Paul came back and he showed him these two songs. He recorded this song and a song called Beautiful Night. Beautiful Night was a song that featured Ringo Starr on drums, by the way. Well, it wasn't really Rob's liking. If you're not familiar with Rob as far as the films, you might remember him from All in the Family, the 1970s sitcom. He played Mike, the son-in-law, basically otherwise known as Meathead. So instead of using this, I guess he turned to Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits, and he did the soundtrack music for the movie. What Paul did is he shelved Beautiful Night for another 10 years, and I think he re-recorded it and then with Ringo on drums and put it on his Flaming Pie album. But he did put this song to promote, you know, this album. How would I rate this album on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best? I would give it an 8. I think this is a very nice album. I think this is a great way for people to have a nice introduction to Paul, and as it says, all the best, or maybe all the bigger hits. So thank you very much for watching my video. You have a good day. Take care. Bye.